Welcome back. Now, this morning on our first interview, we want to discuss the politics of President Obama's visit to Kenya. And to help us in that discussion, we are joined by Honorable Chris Omalwa, the Member of Parliament for Kiminini, together with Honorable Dennis Wabero, the Member of Parliament for Dagoretti North, together with, of course, Mutegi Njau. Now, any questions you have, comments, suggestions in regards to this conversation, 22422 is the SMS line. For now, I hand you over to Mutegi. Mutegi?
Welcome back, welcome. Thank you, Kerigo Ngarwa. Washimiwa. Let's maybe start with the basics. Let's ask ourselves, according to you, both of you, what was the success of this trip?
Okay.
Well, few sentences.
Now, one thing I want to say is the trip was very successful. Very successful in terms of the Global Entrepreneur Summit. At least it has put Kenya on the global map. People have known what Kenya is, what are the good things we have. For instance, we are told it's a hotbed of diversity in terms of culture. This will be a very good attractive for the tourists to come and see how this culture, how divergent it is. And again, in terms of welcoming, so we've been on the global map. Again, following up on the coming of Obama, he mentioned so many critical things that is going to support this country in terms of fight against security, the issue of terrorism, which is a global issue, and to me that's a big plus. He also mentioned about so many things as far as issues of governance are concerned, matters of corruption, the encouragement of the youth, the encouragement of the women. So to me that was a big plus.
The most significant thing that we achieved as a country, one is to welcome our brother Obama. Obviously he was coming back home. People are calling it homecoming. And secondly was to showcase what Kenya has to offer in terms of innovation. GS has not been, this is the 6th edition. And I think it was very important for our entrepreneurs, especially the young entrepreneurs, who are able to interact with the rest of the world, the big shots in the world of business, and other innovators. And so that was a very important thing for our young people to see, yes, we can be able to meet these big names in the corporate world, in the world of innovation, and it's a big morale for our innovators. Maybe the third thing was also to market Kenya worldwide, and especially to the financial capitals of the world. The whole focus in the whole world was about Kenya and what Kenya has to offer. And so to me, I think it was very positive. And to cap it all also was for President Obama to come and talk to us and tell us what no one else can tell us at Kasarani. So I think it was a very successful trip, and we look forward to reap the benefit going forward.
As politicians, are you going to do a follow-up, or the matter will end there? GS is gone, the President of America is gone, and now we have started the same chorus again, the same politics of it's you, it's me, it's us, it's you.
I think Mutegi, on the politics side, I think the most important aspect of the visit was we had a big brother who could talk to us, and especially as politicians, and expose the hypocrisy that we are made of. And you heard what he told the opposition, that they pray that the commander-in-chief can fail and the whole country fails. And I think it's important for us to start embracing and realizing that this country is for all of us. But the most important thing for us as politicians, and I believe Chris will agree with me, is that President Obama has talked about coming to a closure of the past and coming up with a new Kenya, where we have a new agenda, where we embrace change, and especially on corruption issues and the culture of corruption. And I think it's important for us to understand that Obama has put to us a challenge as a country, that this country needs to have a new beginning, and that is the only way we can be able to take this country forward.
You take Chris Oman.
Yeah, thank you. There are very many positive things about the Obama visit, and we also, of course, have the negative things. For instance, the issue of gay. The matter of gay, I think it was a negative issue, and which we opposition also believe in, that we don't support the issue of gayism, much that it can be legalized in America. But you know, America and Kenya, these are totally different environments with different culture. And I want to thank His Excellency the President for coming out clearly and telling President Obama that such issues here is a no-go zone. That is one. And on the issue of the positive aspects, like for instance what he had mentioned, that if Wananchi are fed up of something, they must rise up and say enough is enough. And indeed this is very critical, and emphasize the importance of opposition in any given governance structure, the work of the civil society. He really emphasized, and even His Excellency the President himself, in many times he has acknowledged that indeed we need to have constructive criticism as far as opposition is concerned, and CORD, we are doing that very well. We are opposing where it's value adding. We don't just oppose for the sake. And in this matter, when it comes to matters of governance, the matters of corruption, the President was very categorical, and he said if we emphasize we look at the issue of corruption, it is costing jobs. The big problem, Tegi, in this country, the youth don't have jobs. There's a lot of unemployment, and he talked of the 250,000 jobs being lost, and he requested the President to up his game in terms of fight against corruption. So the issue of corruption was well articulated, and we want to thank him for that. And remember, he also said matters of corruption, they're all over, but the issue is they should not be like everything as usual. True, Mutegi, the issue of insecurity. Security is very critical as far as the issue of investment is concerned, and he said he's going to be with Kenya in terms of fight against terrorism, which is actually a global issue, and some of these issues these issues of terrorism. Actually, Kenya is becoming a victim because Kenya has a close relationship with the West, with America, and it's indeed important that U.S. should come and support Kenya in the fight against terrorism if it comes to issues of maybe infrastructure development, capacity building, which indeed emphasize, and bearing in mind that he mentioned so much about his Kenyan roots, so you can see he has the country at heart.
But the opposition seems to imagine that corruption is perpetrated by the government. Therefore, one of the things the opposition agenda they took to President Obama was about corruption. Absolutely. As if it's a government problem only.
Absolutely. I want to say that corruption has put this country down.
That's true. But
it is true. And the government is the one in power. All the institutions that fight corruption, they're under the current government. So it is indeed important that His Excellency the President...
The opposition can play a role in fighting corruption.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How?
And His Excellency, I mean, the President Obama said it. When it comes to fight against corruption, it must an issue of changing of the culture, and he said it is a responsibility of everyone to wake up and say no to corruption, but from the front it must be led by the government. Look at what's happening. For example, the President brought the list of shame in Parliament. 6 months down the line, the 60 days down the line, we're not seeing action as such. So that means we must strengthen those institutions that are supposed to fight the issue of corruption.
Let's get a point from him.
I think President Obama was very clear. He said that the President Uhuru Kenyatta is doing something fighting corruption, but he needs to be supported by everybody in the country. And I think that was very clear that this is not a fight that can be won just by the President, by one person. This is something that is very well rooted here, that we need to change the culture. In fact, in one of the agreements that was signed was on how to instill values all the way down from school to the officers, government officers, so that we can be able to uproot that culture. What I think you're talking about is when we say that we want to fight corruption today, for example, when we said that ministers should step aside, some of the guys in opposition wanted to make political mileage out of it. When you say that so-and-so should step aside and should be investigated, these are the same fellows who are going around and then start saying, you're being fought, you're doing what. So I think this is something that needs commitment from the opposition and from the government. And the commitment, and I was talking to some parliamentarians yesterday, and I was telling them, this is about time we also rise up and take the fight against corruption to the next level as a parliament. Because I think even the institution of parliament needs to come in and carry out its oversight responsibility.
When you look at the Auditor General's report, and you see how devolved units have spent the money, do you think Jubilee is the only one with the problem? Because governors in all parties, and in fact half of the governors are ODM, the opposition governors. Look at the auditor's report. Are they clean?
In fact,
now, on that issue, okay.
Even before he comments, I have been looking forward to the court leadership to comment on corruption on the devolved units.
Yeah.
One of the biggest, in fact, I even want him to comment on, even, for example, Mumias. We haven't had any opposition member of parliament or the principals talk about Mumia Sugar. We haven't had anybody in court, the principals, talk about Nairobi County, talk about Mombasa County.
Now,
corruption seems to the opposition, corruption seems only to be the national government.
It looks like only Waiguru.
Now, let me...
And they are forgetting that...
okay, I think it's my turn.
289 billion shillings, that is 32% of our budget, has been devolved to the counties. So that is where we need also to look at.
Now, Mr. Mutegi, I think, me and Dennis, you are great friends, and we don't want to use this platform as a platform for his campaigns. I know he wants to be a governor of Nairobi, but I'm not saying there's anything wrong. Huh? We must discuss the critical issues why we're here today. So you can't come and say the opposition has not mentioned anything about corruption, be it in Mumias, whatever it is. When it comes to Mumias, Mr. Mutegi, you'll agree with me that the people from Western region, the members of parliament who are majority are in the opposition, have been on the front line and said whoever was involved in aspects of corruption in Mumias, it must be brought in book, okay? And we have institutions fighting corruption which are doing that. So whoever is going to be named, investigations are going to be done, and the constitution is very clear. Article 226 of the Constitution in terms of surcharging what particular person maybe was responsible for that. There's no way we've come out as opposition to say that we are safeguarding whoever the person is. So by a honorable member coming to purport here that opposition we've not been out to fight against corruption, he's actually misleading these observers who are here today. So corruption is something that opposition cannot condone. And we've been on the front line. And we've been on the front line in terms of requesting the government, we're requesting His Excellency the President to pull up his socks as far as fight against corruption is concerned. When it comes to devolved units, Mr. Mutegi, there are those institutions which are actually very critical as far as fighting corruption is concerned. For instance, the Auditor General. We know the Office of Auditor General is not funded fully. We know very well that with the extended mandate of going up to the county levels, they need more staff to be employed, they need more capacity building, but the budget that we are giving this it's not enough.
Isn't it Parliament the one?
Absolutely. And when it comes to Parliament, when it comes to Parliament, it's not Jubilee or COD. Parliament is across the divide. But remember, the Treasury plays a very critical role as far as money issue is concerned. They provide the ceiling, and this ceiling comes from the government side. They meet as cabinet, and when we go bring some amendments, first and foremost, you need to understand that when you bring any bill in Parliament, if it's a money bill, you must consult the Treasury. Who is in charge of Treasury? It is the government. So if you put a ceiling in place so that maybe to make the work of Auditor General to be difficult, it's the role of the government. Parliament, we have an extent that we can be able to do this amendment. So it is indeed important that the issue of the government plays a very, very critical role when it comes to the ethics and corruption, which is there to fight corruption. Who is there? The president appoints, let's say, the panel that is supposed to interview the commissioners. He's the one to do the appointment. We've had issues with the amendments that we brought in the ethics and corruption. We've said the state secretariat It has also been having issues of corruption. The confidence level has gone down. We brought amendments.
Because members of parliament are involved.
I don't think so.
Yes.
Can you name which member of parliament has been involved in this issue?
I want to contribute on that issue. That issue of funding.
Yeah.
One, I believe fight against corruption is a collective responsibility of several institutions. From the investigation, from CID, EACC, DPP, all the way, hoping that there will be fair prosecution. I believe that Chris, and I believe you are a member of the budget committee. I think I saw you one time. I don't think it's fair to say that it's only the executive that can allocate money. Yeah. Budget making, the budget committee is a budget making institution.
Yeah.
In fact, we can tweak.
I mentioned about ceiling.
We can be able to tweak
ceiling.
Maybe up to 5% of the budget within some limits. So I don't think it's fair to say that the executive is not funding this institution enough.
No. I never say that. What I said, there's a ceiling.
If you look at
when you bring an amendment, it has to be consulted by Treasury.
For example, initially, like 5 years ago, we used to give the judiciary around 5 billion shillings. Currently, we are giving judiciary around 20 billion shillings. Yeah? No excuse of funding. In fact, they have excess funding. DPP, even this year, we have added an extra 1 billion shillings. 1 billion shillings is a lot of money.
It's not enough.
EACC, we have also increased capacity and funding. In fact, these institutions are failing Kenya because they are not executing their mandate, but has nothing to do with funding. We are every time we are giving them audience as a budget committee. They are doing their presentations. We are analyzing their budgets, and we are giving them funding. So I don't think it has to do with funding. It has more to do with willingness to fight corruption. And remember, these institutions are independent. So I think we need to, when the president comes to parliament and says these people should step aside, they should be investigated, and then you expect him to come and investigate in the 60 days. Remember, these are independent institutions. So I think we need to put the blame where it belongs.
Let me mention something before my friend continues. You know, when you read that, you look at the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Act, okay? Any communication that comes from Ethics and Anti-Corruption, it must be signed and must have the seal, must be signed by the chair. Looking at the list that Ethics and Anti-Corruption presented to His Excellency the President, you realize that that seal was not there. It was not signed by the commissioner. We had a lot of wrangling between the secretariat and the commissioners. So if we really want to fight issues of, look at the matters to do with corruption,
would you fault the president because the thing was not
No. The president should not have accepted that particular list, because that list was illegitimate. The law is very clear that any list that comes from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption to His Excellency the President or to Parliament, it must be signed by the chairman. And the fact that that list was not signed by the chairman, in itself, it is legitimate because it has reached the president through an illegitimate process. That is one.
Those are technicalities.
No, it's not technicalities. The president should have asked for an agreeable list between the secretariat and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption. Right now, we've seen this matter has come to court. We've seen even people challenging the composition of EACC in line with its mandate currently. We are actually at a crossroad. We really need to look at, laws are there to be followed to the letter. So, mind that the president has that commitment, the fight against corruption. But in these independent institutions, I do agree they have a problem with funding because funding is not enough. DPP doesn't have enough money. The Auditor General doesn't have enough money to carry its mandate. But EACC, for instance,
let me ask you,
a body that is responsible for the fight against corruption.
Let me ask you a very simple question. The reason why you have not prosecuted Anglo-Dicen and Kamanis is because there is no money. Isn't the case of Anglo-Dicen the one that has collapsed EACC? No,
that matter is in court. We've seen this matter is in court, and we leave the judicial process to take its course.
In fact,
that's what we are following on. We have no control over that.
If you look at the amount of money we have invested in EACC and DPP, is in excess of 50 billion shillings for the last few years, and we have nothing to show. So I support you. I don't think it's about funding.
No, let me justify why the funding is an issue.
Because of corruption.
Give me a second.
In those institutions.
We have institutions. Right now, we're having the county government devolved. We have there's the national government, and we have 47 counties. And a lot of corruption was devolved. Right now, when you look at EACC, they're here. They also have regional presence, but they do not have the capacity. When you look at the Auditor General, the other day when he had an issue with Narok, at times the Auditor General is required to bring an audit, a forensic audit. He doesn't have enough manpower to be able to bring that audit within a short time frame.
Can hire consultants?
No, he doesn't have enough money.
Anyway, let's go back to...
But Mutegi, I think it's important for us to sum it up by saying that even Obama said laws are not enough.
Yeah.
Funding is not enough.
That's true.
It's the will to fight corruption that is important.
Let's go to the agenda of the opposition. There has been a kind of a reaction about what Raila and his friends told Obama, and whether they were rebuked or not rebuked.
Okay, thank you.
What is your take on that?
My take on that is when a memorandum was presented to President Obama, it was a collective memorandum by all the opposition. That is the court principals, the Mother Karua, because they were signatory and part of that. Yeah. And in their, because I've seen the memorandum.
It is in public. It's public in the newspaper today.
And what they say this. In fact, first they thanked President Obama for making a visit, coming to Kenya, and ensuring that the GEC has come to Kenya because it's putting Kenya at a global level. And some of the critical issues that Obama addressed, in fact, in that memorandum they say that we want to thank you because many of the critical issues we want to trace with you, you've actually mentioned them. Remember, Obama met the opposition after his speech to the nation at Kasarani. If at all Obama would have met the opposition before that address, we'll have had speculation saying that maybe the opposition has managed to manipulated the speech of Obama. But this did not happen. Apparently what Obama raised, these were the critical issues that opposition raised with Obama. And I want to go step by step what they did. One of the critical things they mentioned was also the issue of insecurity. And they requested the American government, if they can support our country in terms of enhancing that Kenyans are secure. This is part of the memorandum, and we do know very well that in this country we've had an issue of insecurity, especially issues of radicalization. That they mentioned.
That's granted.
Secondly, issue of corruption.
Okay.
They mentioned the issue of corruption. They mentioned the issue of freedom of the media, which is actually in the public domain. These are the same critical things that Obama had raised. Another issue they mentioned is about the civil society. United States, they know and appreciate the role that civil society plays because it also provides oversight to the government that is government of the day. And the opposition also raised the issue of how the strengthening of the civil society.
The question is this. What Obama said when he met the young people at Kenyatta University. What do you say of that? Because they're saying they were not rebuked.
No, they were not rebuked.
What does it mean? What he said?
Maybe I can try and assist my brother a bit.
No, I don't need assistance.
He's my very close friend.
I don't need assistance. I have the capacity to address any issue here. Let him say from his perspective, but not, I don't need to help me.
What happened to our opposition? They underestimated how much information Obama has about Kenya, and he exposed the hypocrisy that is made of these opposition people. One, he had no time for opposition because if he thought they can discuss anything that he needed to incorporate in his speech,
this was a government visit.
No, I have to finish. In fact,
huh?
Opposition, it was very significant, and actually they should have seen it coming. When Obama met them after addressing Kenyans, that was telling that he had no time for opposition because he didn't need any information from them. He didn't need those memorandums from them. My take is, I think they have to change their game plan because they are dealing with an American president who is also Kenyan president. I mean, who is a Kenyan citizen, who can be able to get all the information that he requires. What they should have done First of all, they have been crying about stolen elections. Now this is the second year. And we don't have time for that. In fact, they went to talk to him about elections of 2013. That was part of the memorandum. They went to talk about IBC. They went to talk to him about corruption. The same thing that he is used to hearing from them day in, day out. And I think it's about time that opposition in this country can start coming up with alternative solutions for this country.
Thank you. Mutegi, first and foremost, I want to say this. We thank President Obama for having a minute or two for the opposition. You must understand that this visit...
15 minutes.
Yeah, you must understand that this visit was a government visit. He came here as the President of the United States. And as he came to Kenya, he was advancing some of the interests of Americans. For example, the issue of gayism. Okay? This is American agenda. And he didn't shy away from this. So for you to purport and say that that Obama didn't have time for the opposition, this visit was not a visit for the opposition. It was government. Just a minute. You give him time. Give me time to explain. It was government to government. And that's why they went to the State House. There were some bilateral talks that were discussed. You can't expect Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, Wetangula and Martha Karua to be invited in the State House for that bilateral talks, because they're not in government. It was government to government. The MOUs were there. They were signed. Okay? So, from there, from his busy schedule, he had to look for time also to hear the opposition's agenda. And we thank him for giving that time, because this was not their day. The day was government to government.
My question is, what do you say about what he said? That somebody was trying to pressurize him to criticize the government.
First of all, I want to say
he acknowledges the elected government in this
Okay, absolutely.
What do you say about that?
No. One thing I want to say is this. The president here said there's a government in place, which is legitimate. I mean, it was elected. Even opposition, they know it. That's why they address President Uhuru, because he is the one who was declared the winner. We've not disputed that, despite the process that had an issue. We know very well that why they mentioned about the issue of 2007, 2008, we had clashes. These clashes have been there because of the issue of the electoral process. In 2013, you can't say the elections were smooth. We had the BVR machines which failed, and that compromised the integrity of the results. And that's why in the agenda of the opposition, they requested, if possible, if the American government can help to strengthen IBC in terms of building infrastructure, ICT infrastructure, so that come 2017, we should not be told that these electronic gadgets had failed. That's what they said, and they said in a good heart. I don't think there was anything wrong. If you're going to a game to play, we have one team this side, this team this side. We must be able to strengthen the referee, and maybe if we can go for training, so that we cannot have issues of credibility of elections. And that's what they say in good order. I don't think there's any problem with that.
Why would you be opposed to that request? That
the IBC.
That the IBC be strengthened.
I don't mind them trying to seek financing for government projects and programs, but behind that request there is a hidden agenda of disbanding IBC, and that is the only motivation that is driving them.
Let me say something before he continues. Obama cannot dictate what happens in this country.
I give you an opportunity to speak.
That he needs to know.
I give you an opportunity to speak.
I must interject, because you can't say we have a hidden agenda of disbanding IBC.
But that's not hidden.
That is the agenda.
That's what he's saying.
There is no any other agenda.
The
opposition. The agenda carries
IBC. We don't need to go to Obama. The law is very clear how to disband IBC.
The agenda only for opposition now is fighting NYS, Anwaiguru, and IBC. No any other agenda. And that is the same agenda they tried to take to Obama. And that is why Obama is not very happy with it, because they are not coming up with practical solutions. They are just trying to pull the government down and trying to discredit any activity that the government of Uhuru Kenyatta is
I don't think
implement.
so.
And I am saying this with a lot of humility. What opposition needs to do is to stop the hypocrisy of trying to fight any program that the government tries to implement. Look at them. They were busy trying to tell Obama, hey, the reason we have insecurity is because we're in Somalia. It is also strategic for US to have a stable government in Somalia.
Do you think it was wise?
If you tell them that we should pull out of Somalia,
can I respond to that?
Yes.
Please, give me time. I'll respond to that.
Yeah.
Now, the issue of the Somali, first and foremost, you need to know that before our forces went to Somalia, it came through Parliament. Parliament is made up of both Jubilee and CORD. But that particular time, it was not CORD issue. So a report needs to come to Parliament to be told the progress report. Our soldiers went to Somalia. What are some of the benefits? What are the merits and the demerits? That report we've waited as Parliament, we've not seen. So that we'll be able to know, do we need to sanction so that more troops can be able to go or withdraw? This is what the opposition has been asking.
The opposition asked Obama.
No, he did not that. It was not there.
The memorandum was
I
very
want
clear.
to say categorically that the issue of Somalia, you to come and say that we told Obama that the forces should come back. The opposition never say that. The opposition are not crazy people. They are people who have gone to school. They understand the constitution. They understand the law. We know very well if we want to withdraw our forces.
So you are denying.
We know the process.
It was number 4 in the memorandum.
They did not say the issues of insecurity. What it was said, partly, what the other people have been saying, they've been calling upon us to withdraw our forces from Somalia. You saw the Garissa attack. I lost so many people from my constituency. And before the gun was shot, the Al-Shabaab people were saying, go and tell your president to withdraw their forces from Somalia. That does not mean that us as opposition, we must look at this critically, look at the merits and the demerits, because we have the interest of the security of this country at heart. So opposition doesn't have another country. We all belong to Kenya. We don't have any other place. So my honorable member friend here should not insinuate, come and say that the opposition have another country they'll hide into. When we are being attacked, we attacked as a Kenya. We should stop this politics of talking blame game of opposition. We want to work together as a team and ensure that this country is going to progress. So I don't want my friend here to have that mentality. Everything at opposition said, Obama cannot dictate to Kenya. We need to know that. He has no powers whatsoever to come and dictate to Kenya that amend this, do this. That's why we've rejected his gazing. He's not a prefect to come and dictate to us.
One of the leaders of the opposition, one Senator Tangula, before Obama came, he was saying we will go to him, we will tell him this, we will tell him, he said it.
Yes.
We will only
okay,
that
can I respond to that? Can I respond to that? Can I respond to that?
But he was saying we'll tell, I was wondering now, is Obama coming here as a president, as a prefect?
Can I respond to that?
Yeah.
Okay. Why they say this? You know, when the president comes here, there's something called situation analysis. He wants to understand the situation in this country. He wants to hear from the government. He wants to hear from the civil society. He wants to hear from the opposition and be able to see whether there's that reliability and validity of that information that he's getting. So if you tell the president that this is happening, it is upon that situation that maybe we can request for support in terms of capacity building. So there's nothing sinister about that. So it is true, we told him, he cannot prefect, cannot dictate to us, but we give a scenario, this is how it is, and so we need your help. For instance, the issue of IBC, it is true. In 2013, we had problems with elections. The BVR things failed.
Because of corruption?
No. Yeah, corruption is there. No, corruption is there. The BVR, they've mentioned, Oswago mentioned, many people have mentioned. So it's also the issue of corruption. We also need capacity building. So we are building a scenario to tell Obama this is how it is. So if there's any way he can help in terms of capacity building, training our people, improving our infrastructure, so be it. So that 2017 we can have credible elections free from rigging. And it's good for opposition, it's also good for my friend of Dagoretti here. If he's rigged out as a governor because of maybe poor BVRs or whatever the case, he'll be smiling all the way. So it is indeed the key.
Mutegi, I don't understand why these people keep talking about BVR, IBC, and yet they were running against two people who are not in government, William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta. At that moment, Raila Odinga was in charge. Kalonzo Musyoka was the vice president. So in any case, we should be blaming them for all this.
Now, let me mention that. You know, this government was under President Mwai Kibaki. He was the
prime minister.
The prime minister, it's true, it was the current opposition leader.
He was the vice president.
Raila Amolo Odinga. Kalonzo was the person there. But the issue here is about the process. Okay? if we talk about rigging, or in case of any election malpractice, it was not done when these people were in power. It was being done, the process of voting. Remember that particular time? That is the process that we are trying to challenge.
The Oswego says there were calls from somebody in the embassy in India. There were calls from somebody in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Who was in charge?
But that does not mean...
Who was the minister?
It does not mean when the Minister of Foreign Affairs... By the way, Wetangula was not Minister of Foreign Affairs. You people have short memory.
Okay, even though he wasn't.
He was in trade. I mean, we can't just be blaming opposition for the sake. Mutegi, you're already forgetting. My friend, you're still young. You know the age of Mutegi.
Prime Minister,
you have forgotten
Prime Minister was
and say that Wetangula was the Foreign Affairs Minister. He was not.
Yes, he was sharing power with Moi Kibaki.
Absolutely, but he has no control on those people who are calling.
Moi Kibaki's vice president was Kalonzo Musyoka. So when these people talk about BVR, I fail to understand. In fact, even Raila Odinga is the one who actually put together IEBC.
Remember, IEBC
is the one who was
an independent body
by Moi Kibaki. Go and sort out that IEBC. So, and again, I don't like the idea of all the time crying every 2007, 2013. So we're even waiting for you in 2017. That
you
again you're going to say you've been out.
No, there's nothing like boycotting. We're not boycotting. The words which were said, and let's not miss the gist of this.
Yes.
What the Prime Minister had mentioned, or what my other colleagues in the opposition had mentioned, that if at all we are going for elections in 2017 without a proper IBC in terms of their infrastructure,
not disbanding.
The infrastructure, we're talking about these issues of the BVR, the verification.
Does that include human beings?
But the human beings are the ones in charge of that. So they are just bringing these reforms. We want to have electoral reforms so that when you go for elections, everybody knows that the systems, the structures are in place for a free, fair, and democratic elections. But we're not saying we are boycotting the elections. No, we've not discussed anywhere as a coalition and made a decision that we are, these are coalition made up of different parties, different individuals. I'm a member of parliament. I've not been consulted. So you can't come and say, but because maybe somebody has mentioned in his opinion that we are going to boycott, and you claim that opposition is going to boycott the elections. We are not saying we're not going to boycott. What we are asking is we want the electoral reforms to be done so that we are assured of the free, fair, and democratic elections.
Final word before we close.
For me, I think it's very unfortunate that our opposition team have been exposed, their hypocrisy, and I still insist they underestimated how much information Obama had about Kenya. He's been following history several years, and so he's very, very informed about what happens in Kenya. And even the fight against corruption, he's aware that the president is reading from the front. And that is why he talked about need for us collectively as a country to come together. It doesn't matter if you're in opposition or government, to come together and fight this evil. My take is going forward in the next 1 year or so, I'm looking at things falling apart in CORD. As you know, the glue that was putting them together, they were always pretending that they are talking from Washington, and they had a very close relationship with Washington, to an extent of going there and coming back heroes after 1 or 2 months. I believe we are going to see likes of my friend here coming to us together, and we working together, and so it's a matter of time we see the disintegration of CORD coalition.
Now, I don't want to discuss about his wishful thinking. I want to be very objective. I want to tell Kenyans this, that we appreciate the trip of President Obama, and want Kenyans to know that there's no one who can come from outside to come and dictate what happened in this country. What we know is, as opposition, we are going to work closely with the government. We'll support the systems, the structures they have put in place that will add value to the common Kenya. But issues which will negate the principles of good governance, as opposition, we are very firm, and we are going to oppose this. What we want to say is this: we want to have the electoral reforms so that by 2017, as we go back to the elections, we don't want the issue of rigging, we don't want the issue of the clashes that have been there because of bungled elections and all that. We want to live as one Kenya, we want to live as a team, and matters that affect Kenya, it doesn't matter whether you're in Jubilee or whether you're in CORD. will be affected both as Kenyans. And as opposition, we are focused to provide objective criticism. But we'll support the government in all the structures that are going to add value to the common Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mheshimiwa. Viewers of you have heard for yourselves. We hope now that Obama is gone and the GS is gone, that our leaders behave the way Mheshimiwa Wamalwa is speaking here, that they team up, work as a united country, bipartisan decisions being taken, not criticism, not you and us. Thank you very much. Stay tuned.